What's up guys, it's Salvajee. This is my advanced traversal techniques for the Interceptor Javelin. And of course, make sure that you guys checked out my beginner's interceptor movement video and my advanced interceptor movement video, as well as my 9-dash technique video, because those three videos have basically set the foundation for this video. And of course, I have talked about a lot of the things that I'm not really going to be explaining in this video. So, advanced traversal with the Interceptor. It's all about maximizing your environment, knowing which enemies to actually go after. We're going to be going over that in the combat analysis part of this video. And also, of course, being the faster Interceptor in the West, because let's face it, being an Interceptor is also about making other Interceptors look like slugs. Is that the right word? Turtles. Okay. So, let's say that I'm flying from over here all the way up to the other objective that's going to be all the way over there. We're going to be starting it off with a 9-dash technique. And the reason why we're doing a 9-dash technique from point A to point B, it's because we are going to have a lot of airtime. We're going to follow it up with the flight dash. And then, of course, we're going to get into this little area, you know, that little area right there. We're going to reset our jumps. And we're going to go for another 9-dash technique. Alright, so that's basically how I like to cross sort of, I guess you could say, big areas when there is a lot of high ground involved, for example. Now let's just take a look at low ground, I guess you could say. As I'm traveling through low ground, for example, this little area right here, and I will be bringing you guys a couple of examples, of course, in my combat analysis as well, but as I am traversing through low ground, I want to be moving as fast as possible, which means that the 9-dash technique is not really going to be a good idea. So I'm going to be doing the 6-dash technique most of the time as I am traversing through the world. I actually messed that up. So it's going to look something like this. Oh, let's get these materials though. It's going to look something like this. We're going to go for the 6-dash technique. And then we're going to do our dashes, we're going to fly, we're going to reset our jumps. This is the main key aspect of advanced traversal with the Interceptor. You always want to be on the lookout for areas that you can reset your jumps. Because if you reset your jumps, you can do another 6-dash technique. And that's how I also find events really easily in the world, guys. Since I'm able to move so quickly, I don't really struggle when it comes down to finding events. So, let's take a look at another example and another traversal technique right here. I'm going to go from this little area that I'm at right now. Let me open up my map. From here, all the way up to over here, I guess you could say, the Emerald Abyss. So, alright, so let's get to the Emerald Abyss. I actually messed up my 6-dash technique the first time. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing my 6-dash technique. It's not my 6-dash technique, but you guys know what I mean. Alright, and then I'm going to get all the way up to this objective right here. I have reset my jumps, and I know that to get to the other area, I'm going to have to cover a lot of ground, and I'm going to be at the high ground as well, which means that I can go for, of course, a 9-dash technique. And when it comes down to advanced traversal with the Interceptor, you guys always want to be looking for situations where you can go for, of course, the 6-dash or the 9-dash technique. Now, there are going to be encounters, however, where you're not going to be able to always use the 9-dash technique because you don't have a lot of high ground. So in those encounters and situations, you make your own high ground. For example, I'm going to move from this direction all the way up to this point over here, somewhere around here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off my flights, I'm going to get some high ground, and then I'm going to go for the 9-dash technique. So I have basically given myself a really good sort of elevation to pull off the 9-dash technique, and then of course I can go and activate my flights. Something that I pointed out on my advanced interceptor guide or my basics interceptor guide, I don't really remember, is the basically this ability right here. Alright, I forgot the name of it. I literally said it earlier on in the video, but I forgot about it. Okay, so if you guys want to be changing directions as you're flying with the Interceptor, you always want to press melee and of course use your dashes. This is really important because in combat, sometimes you're going to be, you know, sort of flying. You see an enemy or a turret that you want to go after. You're just going to do this, right? You're not going to be like going all the way around, wasting all the jet fuel, all of that stuff. Of course, this guide is for you to maximize your experience. You know, you don't have to do everything in this guide if you don't want to maximize your experience. So those are basically some of the basic things that I wanted to cover when it comes down to traversal for the Interceptor. And now, of course, I want to go over some gameplay examples and my combat analysis on how, of course, I use, you know, traversing techniques with the Interceptor to make sure that I'm being very effective with my melee as well as my movements. Did you just yell at me? That's not nice. Anyways, let's go into the combat analysis, boys. Alright, so I want to get to the objective really quickly. This is just an example of resetting our jumps by using anything to land. I land on that little platform right there. I reset my jumps and I am able to go for another 6-dash technique and quickly make my way to the objective. Alright, so let's take a look at combat scenario number 1. I'm going to be using my dashes as well as my melee jumps because I want to get a general idea of where my enemies are going to be at. And I'm also going to be using either my melee or my abilities to also land on these enemies. I see an enemy right here, so I'm going to be triple jumping, and what I'm going to do is, that's right, I'm going to be using one of my abilities to land on them. As I'm traversing with the Interceptor, I always want to ask myself, can I land an ability on these guys? Can I throw an ability towards them as I'm trying to land on them? Or can I just land with melee? This next following, you know, example, I guess what happens here is just pretty basic. I'm just hitting these guys. I want to take them out. That's pretty much my main job. But I see that I have some enemies to my left, so I'm going to be using a melee jump to get to their side. And then, of course, when they get primed up, I'm going to go for the combo. Sometimes as you're traversing in combat with the Interceptor, you want to make sure that you set yourself up for situations that's going to let you either land a combo or basically just retreat. And in this scenario, I'm just retreating because, in my opinion, you're going to be able to move easier with the Interceptor if you know where the enemies are and where the enemies aren't. I'm going to jump out here, and then I'm going to be using my Absolute Zero ability. That's a technique that I like to use with my Interceptor. I like to jump, throw my Absolute Zero or the Venom Bomb, and then of course I like to go for the ability that is of course going to trigger the combo. I'm going to do it right here again. And the reason why I like to jump and then throw an ability and then of course go for my primer is because sometimes I jump and then I prime up some targets, but then I take damage and I have to get out. And since I only jump once, that means that I can use my 3 dashes to get out, then go for a melee jump, and then use my 3 dashes again, so that I can of course get a better idea of where the enemies are going to be and how and what course of action I'm going to take to actually attack them. Alright, so this is a perfect example of how to cover a lot of ground after you sort of lost it, basically how you want to catch up with your team. You have to be aware when you can go for a 9-dash technique and 6-dash technique. In this situation, I was able to go for a 9-dash technique because I realized that I had a lot of ground to cover and a pretty decent amount of high ground as well. I land here on purpose because I know I'm going to be able to go for a 6-dash technique and then of course be able to get closer to the target. And since I am able to catch up with this storm right here, I am going to be able to land a sweet combo as well. Sorry for stealing your combo, Storm. I know how you feel, okay, because sometimes I play Storm and damn, does it suck when you prime someone up and then someone steals your combo. Alright, let's break down this gameplay scenario right here. This one is just going to be giving you guys a general idea of how I'm maximizing my landing so that I can go for 6-dash techniques and of course the 9-dash technique. So right here, I'm going to be landing. I'm purposely going to be getting high ground because I know I have a lot of ground to cover, and on top of that I can get high ground pretty easily, and then I'm going to be going for my 9-dash technique. Basically, I was able to get the 3 extra dashes that maybe another Interceptor might not be able to do. And of course, I'm also going to be going for a 9-dash technique as well, and I'm going to start fighting enemies as I wait for my teammates. Like I previously said earlier in the video, when I am using Interceptor movements to sort of get to a target, I want to see if I can land with them with melee, if I can throw an ability towards them, or if I can land on them with something like sudden death. So here I'm going to be throwing my ability, my Absolute Zero, to this turret, And then I'm going to be using a melee jump so that I can close the distance between this turret. Not only do I have the turret frozen, but I also made the other turret disappear with complete terror, because the other turret saw what I was doing to the current frozen turret, and the other turret was like, I ain't having none of that, fam. See you on the next one. And that's exactly what I am going to be doing, my boys, because that's pretty much it for this expert interceptor traversal guide. I wanted to make this video because if you want to maximize movement with the interceptor, you also have to know how to traverse through the world. There's way too many slow interceptors out there, and of course I wanted to make this guide to make them even faster than what they already are. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like, feel free to subscribe for more Anthem as well as some more variety content right here on the channel. Peace out.